being on lockdown, having to be in the house and having to adjust, trying to give people food that weren't able to get in the grocery stores. Um, that was a lot. And, us having to serve more people than we're used to serving, we've had to make a lot of shifts rapidly, is basically what's been the theme of the past few months. And just when I was starting to find some semblance of balance, another crisis happened with the uprising and everything. And so the biggest challenge, the most stressful thing about the past week for me has been the curfews. In addition to just all the emotional stress that, and the emotional toll this has taken on myself and, everyone around me. We had that Monday off. We had a 3-day weekend, and I took that Monday for some much needed rest. And I was feeling very well rested. And then boom, Tuesday hit, and it was like it just kind of ate up all my rest gains. You know what I mean? And then when the curfew started, that was very stressful because I don't know if they were doing this up there, but they were sending these texts out, 30 minutes before saying, hey, you have to be in the house by 4 p.m. Or we told you have to be in the house by 6 p.m., but now it's 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. And, one of the days myself and my mother to go to the grocery store, she's a teacher, so she gets off at around 3:30. So as soon as she got off, we rushed over to the grocery store, got there at 3:45. And then we were told we couldn't come in. And they were saying, well, you can't come in because LA just changed the curfew to 5. We already have people in the store and we need to get everybody out of here, by whatever time so that the workers can get home. And so we're like driving around the city, like trying to get food. And it's just like, why are we rushing at 4 o'clock to get food? It's 4 o'clock. Yeah. What I mean? So it's been extremely stressful. As far as what the mood has been, there's just so much going on. There's so much going on right now. And I don't even know, like, things are a little more calm now. I think the curfew will be over tomorrow. It's been very nerve-wracking seeing National Guards people just in the streets, just like at the Beverly Center or just wherever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the military is literally in the streets. Yeah. That's very disturbing. It's been disturbing watching how people are being treated, by the police has been extremely disturbing. They're using all kinds of tactics where they're boxing people in and then telling crowds to disperse, but they don't have anywhere to go, then arresting them. They're doing all sorts of things under the cover of in Los Angeles. People were pushing for the budget to be modified because even after COVID happened and, just decimated the economy, they were wanting to give 54% of the budget to law enforcement. And, between law enforcement and fire, that's 70% of the budget. And just, without any reverence to the condition that people are in economically and the people that have been displaced by all of this and that are going to be displaced by all of this. There's so much that people actually need right now, and it just doesn't seem like any of those cries are being heard. And so I'm truly hoping that nationwide this becomes a catalyst, not only for the in-the-moment anger and the quick donations that people are making to various organizations, the upswell of, energy that we've seen with all of this. I'm really hoping that people galvanize this into actual lasting change. Yeah. Actual lasting change. And, politically, there's so many people that are just comfortable and they're just still wanting to go with the status quo. But we, at this point in time, as humans on this planet, we need real solutions. We actually need solutions that are going to be lasting. And yes, that they might be comfortable at the beginning or they may seem radical at the beginning, but we actually need to solve these issues or things are going to continue to get worse for us. Yeah. And I feel like that's the most message that we're getting from the universe and from this year. That's basically what we're being told is like, hey, sitting at home comfortably and quietly and just going along with things however they are, waiting for things to change. We all should be on alert right now as to what our duty truly is to this planet and what really needs to be done. So that's my little summary of how it's
Okay,
been.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
no
I
problem.
think about, Angela Davis talking about the root of the word radical being, the root. And I think we do need to get to the root, the core of these issues. Band-aid solutions won't work. Sure, those cops have been arrested, the one guy and then the additional three. But it's not about that. We know that this is about, hundreds of years of systemic racism and marginalization of our people. So I feel like I'm like stressed and scared at times, but also hopeful. And I haven't seen. I feel like this is a real movement moment, and I know that the people know that, and I know that the organizations like the Movement for Black Lives and others who have been like building up until this point, and I think people need to know that you know this just didn't kind of happen spontaneously. Like people have been on the ground building infrastructure for years to really be able to catch this moment, and I'm hoping that we can impact these larger structures, because if not, I think people are just going to continue to be in the streets, and it is what it is. It's like you have a choice. You can actually like work towards systemic changes, or we're going to continue being in the streets and y'all not going to like it. But you know I think it is what it is. I One of the reasons I'm like stressed out is because we have like a group of like 7 kids at our house right now, socially distanced, making banners and signs for different
Right.
family actions that we're going to be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that I'm asking everyone viewing this, get in where you fit in. I talked about last weekend, we did a family caravan in Oakland where we were in our cars and there were about 2 dozen families and we did a teach-in. And yeah, we're not going to have our kids out in the streets, but sure, we'll be in the car and we'll be out there in alliance with the folks who are protesting. And I think that whatever ways people can contribute, make it happen.
Right. And I think the stress part that you mentioned is kind of like a really big part because with everything that's happening, people who are doing the work are being pulled in so many different directions. And a lot of the exhaustion I've experienced is just trying to wrap my head around all of this and trying to, trying to create solutions on the fly while everything is pretty much crumbling. Like it's going up right now. Like it's going up and it's going down.
Right.
And I see that's in the, as somebody whose life work, this is my life work. It's very difficult to just maintain emotionally because it's just like, okay, like these curfews are happening. There's people who can't make it out to get food because they're working and, wanting to put together deliveries for them, but also running a business, running a nonprofit, and just trying to take care of everyone, you know what I mean, at a time when there's so much to take care of,
Yeah.
it's very, stress is really big, is a key word in everything
Yeah.
that's going on right
Yeah. Let me pause for a second. I'm assuming that everyone did the research and they know who you are. But for those who don't, let me just do a quick bio. Olympia has become a steadfast in a commitment to creating infrastructure for a better earth. In 2016, she started SÜPRMARKT, a low-cost organic grocery service to eliminate or address food apartheid. Since starting SÜPRMARKT, has served up to um, yeah, I mean, you've been doing this amazing work. I want to get into that, but just kind of going. Oh, and let me say, big up to the plug. I had my sign that my daughter made for Kaiser, but I can't find it. But thank you, Kaiser, for underwriting my residency at MoAD. You've been, so supportive of us, and really, your mission of being in alignment, being kind of there and ensuring that communities are kind of holistically being addressed is in alignment with, the vision that I've always had about thinking more than just bringing food, but how can we create overall healthy communities. So thank you for supporting Kaiser. But just kind of like going back to where we were talking before, self care. I want to talk a little bit about that and just, I've been really holding a lot here, just taking care of my kids as my wife has been working a lot. And, I've been trying to keep upbeat and chipper throughout the pandemic. But I hit a wall on Tuesday after the weekend of uprisings and just really over consuming too much, media, looking at all the videos of police violence. I couldn't do anything. And so, I decided that I didn't want to numb it out. I really wanted to be present with it. I wanted to sit with it and just kind of work through it. And I'm glad I did that. And so it made me realize that even if I don't recognize that, or, feel like I'm kind of like in duress or stress, I think there's just this low level of stress that I've been holding throughout, and a lot of us are holding. So I've been thinking about different health or self care strategies, and I'm wondering, just in terms of like, obviously, so many of us who have been committed to doing this work to improve the world outside, we also need to be thinking about the kind of internal work. So I'm wondering what practices you have had or that you have now in this particular historical moment to really make sure that you're filling yourself up so that you can abundantly give to community and others.
Self-care has been a journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially over the past 2 years, it's been something that has, it's become clear to me that it's not optional. I think that most of my life, like, I've been willing to put my own personal needs on the back burner or just kind of push them to the side. And in the past 2 years specifically, it's become clear to me that that's not going to work. And that is not, it's not optional. And you will hurt yourself if you don't stop and take breaks and replenish yourself. Putting it into practice has been another kind of a challenge. It has been difficult. Right now, I'm mostly a solopreneur. So I'm working on building, the support system needed to be able to take breaks and not have to be there every time we're doing something. But specifically, when the crisis started, I do feel grateful that I started spending more time with family, came home, got back into yoga. Even if I just do 2 sun salutations a day or something like that, I feel grateful and my body feels it, and I feel better. And then I am a meditator, but I haven't necessarily been consistent over the past few years, and so on those days when I do take that 30 minutes to meditate, before I go to bed or something like that, that's really helpful. I'm also one thing that I appreciate about COVID when COVID first hit is that it allowed me to it made everything stop, and it gave me permission to say no. And so there was a lot going on, and I'm getting ready for this conference, and I'm getting ready for that, and I'm getting ready for this, and without me knowing, it was taking a toll on me. And so when everything got canceled, that gave me permission to actually be clear on what I need to do and what I want to do. And I really appreciate the fact that I had the opportunity to say, everybody understood if I said no. But the fact of the matter is that even before COVID happened, there's probably a lot of times when I needed to say no, but I didn't have a situation where people would understand. And so it helped me understand that even if other people don't understand, you have to understand yourself and you have to understand your own limits.
Yep.
And so, that was one positive thing at the beginning of this. And the other thing is that we got busy and we have been, busier in all of this. But the busy that I was a focused busy. So if I'm busy, I'm literally busy handling orders. I'm literally busy like making tags, working on systems to be able to bring orders in and things like that. I'm working directly on things that I can just focus on instead of having my attention pulled in a bunch of different directions. But as far as the past 2 weeks are concerned, I've been fortunate to be able to get out to nature in Ojai a couple of times. That's been very helpful. And just on the day to day, like I can't say that I'm perfect. This is something that I'm working on establishing. When it comes to self care, I know that there's more work that I want to do and need to do, but showers are self care. You know what I mean? Like taking time to. I'm just working on interrupting myself when I'm kind of in a certain mode, and then additionally, Additionally, sort of, I think the other important thing is like affirmations, and really checking where your mind is at and really trying to ground and like connect to spirit. Like I've been really keeping on my mind those sorts of thoughts and focusing my energy towards like my highest vibration, because only through that's the only thing that's constant, you know what I mean? And like whatever's going on now is going on now, but you have to kind of you know, connect to the higher meaning in all of this in order for you to understand what you're supposed to be doing moment to moment. So just meditating and, you know, trying to read Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Body, or just like different books. Yeah, you know, just at least doing affirmations once a day has been helpful over the past few days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I had like a really strong sitting practice before we had kids, and I feel like it's fallen off. They've gotten to a point now where I can really, you know, think about having a more regular practice. And I can't even tell you, like, the days that I sit, I feel like, you know, like, as soon as I get up, like,
right.
No brush teeth, no, just like immediately go sit on the mat. I feel like it totally changes the vibe of my whole day, you know? And so, I'm really, that's something I've been trying to instill in my daughters, just like having those personal practice, as you said, that are just
right.
that constant, that are real, that are truth. And so no matter what definition, what's going on in the outside world, like really having a ability to be in touch with that core. So I feel you on that. Can we, where did you grow up?
So I grew up across LA, but most of my younger years were spent in South Central. When people like, I'd like to tell people the schools I went to in Los Angeles, because that helps give an idea of like where I've been. So I went to Bright Elementary, which is close to, you know, Fauché. And I went to La Tierra, which is close to Fridays, which is like in Inglewood. And then I went to Hamilton High School, which is in like West LA, downtown Culver City area. You know, so I live pretty much in every part of the city, but my roots are in South Central. And when I came back when I started SÜPRMARKT, I was living in South. It was because I was living in South Central.
Yeah. Can you talk? Also, I know that you talk about the kind of catalyst for you moving into food activism being just like dealing with, I think, what many people in communities have to confront, like the kind of barriers to getting like good food, you know, whether they be economic, geographic, physical barriers. And it seemed like there was definitely the geographic barriers because you had to take a bus or like drive for, I don't know, how long did it take? I remember, was it 2 hours? Am I dreaming that you had to like?
Yeah, it's 2 hours. I feel like we should like recreate that journey of like, you know, like make a video and we like get on the bus and like go get food, you know, so people could really see like how long it actually takes.
Right.
That would be some good content, but it's a struggle, you know what I mean? When you live in certain parts of the city and you need to be able to get somewhere, you don't have a car and you're trying to be able to feed yourself, it's too difficult and most people won't do it. The only reason that I did it is because I had already gone vegan in college and I already had the lifestyle kind of in motion, so I was already committed. But if you're trying to learn and you already have, you know, children and you have work to deal with and everything like that, you're not going to add a 2-hour bus trip into your life to be able to eat healthy. And, you know, because of that, you're going to have negative health outcomes and you're going to be 2 or 3 times as likely to die, you know, than if you lived in West LA. So, if anywhere, LA, anywhere in California, you know, shouldn't really be any food deserts here. And so I think that if we can solve it here, we can start to solve it in other places because we produce most of the country's food. So it doesn't really make sense that, you know, LA could be considered one of the healthiest, you know, places in America, even in the world. But when you drive outside that radius, it's not. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
And there's so much food going away. Somebody asked if we're still opening a store. Yes, we're still opening a store. We're still raising the funds to be able to do that. We're in negotiations, you know, getting the property appraised and trying to get a good price negotiated on that property. So we would love everybody's support to be able to finalize that. And, you know, as you know, and as you probably saw up north.
So while we're here, can you just quickly give people the website that they can go to find out more information about the project, the store, everything else?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and type it in the comments.
Cool.
So Keep Saucin' Fresh is a campaign we started to open South Central's first full-service organic grocery store, and we started that last year, and that's still in full effect. And
Have you been in touch with? Do you know Brahma Mahdi?
No.
I want to
Who's
connect
that?
you all. So Brahm was one of the founders of the People's Grocery here in Oakland.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then now, and for like years, like almost a decade, he had been working on building a supermarket, and they actually open it now. So they have a market in West Oakland, and I think that he could be a great mentor for you. So I want to make that happen.
Okay, that would be beautiful. I still gotta come take my trip up there and come visit y'all.
Sure. We'll see you in I guess 2023 when everything gets back to normal.
That part, like that. Like, there's so many plans. Like one of my life goals is to visit Kemet, and I had like put the deposit down to go on this trip with my professors from Howard. And tell me why they sent it back. Like
they're like, for real? Was that Greg Carr? You gonna go with him?
Yeah. Dr. Carr.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna go with him and hieroglyphics professor, and you know, that was cancel.com. Everything is canceled, and I don't know when
cancel.com.
I don't know when anything can happen. So yeah, I'll see you in 2028 when everything, you know, blows over. But you know, the speed at which everything is happening, like, it makes me hope that everything will be fast. Like maybe we're in like the summer class version of like waking up as a planet. It's just like boom, boom, boom. So maybe we'll hurry up and get it out the way as soon as possible. But
did you grow your family? Did you grow up kind of? I guess a lot of the practice you mentioned, just like, you know, reading Louise Hay, like being committed to affirmations, like healthful eating. So when did that develop for you? Was that in college?
Yeah, a lot of that. Well, I'm going to go. So I've been kind of aware since I was a baby, and I've always been like a different child, you know, since I was little.
What's your zodiac sign? What's your Western zodiac sign?
I'm a Scorpio.
Back now.
Y'all need us. Everybody wants to talk bad about Scorpios, but y'all need us. As you can see, I'm just playing. So yeah, a lot of it sort of bloomed, and I started to, you know, kind of come into myself. Starting in high school, but like mainly in college is when I had like a lot of my awakening process happen. And you know, like I feel like was
there like a pivotal moment? Like, was there like a book, a talk, something that, you know, transformed and shifted your habits and attitudes and politics around food?
It was a series of fortunate events. So the first thing that happened was I was in high school and I had a very phenomenal history teacher, and so you know, rest his soul. Mr. Kaplan changed so many lives, and he definitely changed my life. So he was a teacher in the humanities magnet at Hamilton High School, and he had us watching Bachelors of the Party and reading a People's History of the United States and things like that when I was 16 years old. And so I was like turned up. Like most of the kids in my class were like Caucasian people, because those are the people who are in that magnet for the most part. And so like I was just like turned up telling everybody about like what systemic racism is, and racism is not prejudice, and like I was like very turned, and like nobody knew what I was talking about. And then all of a sudden, in like 20 whatever, like everybody wanted to everything. I've been talking about this since I was 16. Yes. So that gave me the foundation, because I could understand America, and I could understand that what I had been raised to believe was not true. Mm-hmm. And then when I got to college, I started attending these things called power study groups, which was like a weekly deliberative dialogue session. And deliberative dialogue is very interesting because it's not a lecture. It's not you going somewhere and somebody tells you about a subject. It is it's a conversation, and there's a question presented, and everyone in the room has to put their brains together to figure out the answer to that question. And so much powerful learning takes place. And every time I would leave there on Thursday nights, my mind would be blown. And so that's how I started to understand the food system, the pharmaceutical system, where wars come from, where money comes from. I was really rapidly having the curtain peeled back, or the veil peeled back, about the planet. And because of that, I knew that I was going to be dedicating my life to creating information and infrastructure for a better Earth. And I knew that I wasn't going to just go get a job after college. So some other things that were pivotal for me were going to Vipassana for the first time, 10 days, just straight meditation. I did that when I was 21 years old, changed my life.
Can you explain what Vipassana is for folks who might not be familiar with that?
Yeah, so Vipassana is a 10-day meditation course. It's by donation, so anyone can go. Somebody before has paid so that you can experience it. All you need to do is just bring yourself, and you're just with yourself meditating 10 days. There's other people there, but it's just you and you, basically. And there's something so powerful and transformative and therapeutic about that. Nobody's telling you anything. You really just get a chance to look at yourself and understand yourself. And what beyond that, the technique is such that it is showing you how to come out of your misery. It's giving you a technique that you can use to release your karma, or your karma, like basically your resentments and your cravings and your aversions. Technique is like showing you how to release your cravings and aversions, not through anything that you think with your mind, but just through observing the sensations on your body. And so when you leave, when I left, I just felt a million times lighter. I was able to forgive people that I thought I vowed that I would never forgive. It's just a very powerful experience. There's a documentary online called Dhamma Brothers, Dhamma Brothers. If anybody wants to, be inspired and check that out. And so it's by donation, and you can go. And I just hitched a ride, not hitched a ride, but there's like a rideshare board. So I just got on a rideshare board and went up there, and it's 10 days that'll really change your life. Honestly, I can't recommend it highly enough. And another thing that was transformative for me was going to Burning Man when I was 21 as well. So I was doing a lot my 21st year, when I got out of college. I was going to Inipi ceremonies, Native American sweat ceremonies, and I was getting my hands on any spiritual experience that I could. But Burning Man was transformative because you get to experience yourself outside of this grid or outside of society, you know what I mean? And the crazy thing about it is that the best part about Burning Man is that you go however long you're there, 7 days, you spend that whole time never spending money. So you get to experience what life would be like without money. Obviously, you pay for your ticket, you pay to be able to get there, you bring all your own stuff. So, there's expenses involved in that, but it's just very powerful to kind of feel that freedom. And it's just transformational on a lot of levels, because you can literally just go to the airport and be like, hey, can you teach me how to fly a plane? Any kind of person, whatever you're looking for is pretty much there. It's changed, obviously. I went in 2012, and it's very different now. It has commercial, so the vibes are somewhat different. There's way more people. Yeah. But that was powerful for me because, a lot of these businesses that are on Venice Boulevard or different places, a lot of them are burnt. And a lot of people go there, have that experience, and they bring it back to the world, bring those principles into the world. And so,
did you have people of color or a Black crew with you?
When I first went, no, it was there were no, I was looking. I did find 2 people, and one of those people I'm still friends with. She's basically my sister now. October from that Afro Mystic. And so when I first started going, no, it was very few. But the last time I went, I was a little bit offended because if we saw each other, we would run up to each other, everything. But it was all these new people that just walking by, not even saying nothing. I'm it's so there's way more there now. But at the same time, there's also more tourists there now. I'd be annoyed that people have their phones, because it used to be no service, no phones, you're just out there with people, Yeah. So there's more diversity now. I'm a member of a camp called POC Camp, People of Color Camp. So there's more people of color there now.
Yeah. When you were at Howard, huh?
I just said hi to somebody in the comments.
Oh, okay, okay. Something came up when you were talking. I was thinking about when when I went to Xavier in New Orleans, and I feel like there was
Okay.
often this weird relationship. It's kind of a elitist relationship actually with the community where, and it was wild because there was literally like this. It's almost like a little moat around the school, and it was a bridge that you had to go across to get to the campus, and it felt like this kind of barrier between the campus and the
Right.
community. And I'm wondering, when you were at Howard and you start connecting with people, did you like find yourself in the
Yeah.
community connecting with like local folks as well?
Yeah, so I'm pretty adventurous, so I definitely have my share of friends that are actually PC, and like me and my friends was always going on bird missions and everything. So for me it's yes, but that was one of the things that I didn't like and I didn't really appreciate or approve of when I was at Howard. Like the first week you get there, like everybody's warning you about the locals. Like they will call them the locals.
Right?
Almost it was almost like a derogatory term, you know what I'm saying? And like um I think that sucks. You know what I mean? I think that's trash, especially, to be attending a black school. Like the university should be doing everything in its power to uplift the community that it's in.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people who were elitist and they were very like just scared of the people that are from there. I do understand that the crack epidemic did happen and the 90s happened and the 2000s did happen. I do understand that plenty of people have gotten robbed, walking home from wherever late at night. Um, but that we have back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation, we have to create solutions. If there's an issue, we live in a society where things are such that people cannot take care of themselves, then we need to create a solution for that. Like you can't just alienate yourself from other people because the economic situation is different, because it always will come back to bite you, and it's back to bite us right now. Our
Yeah.
entire economy is on the brink of collapse. People, and we have to examine ourselves and what do we do when we get a little money, and what are our attitudes towards ourselves even when we don't have money. Like those are all solutions that need to be created, and I think a big part of that is education, specifically as it relates to the crack epidemic, because myself growing up in South Central, I didn't know until I just happened to have that teacher when I was 16. If that never happened, I would never understand why there are gangbangers in my city. I would never understand why people in my family went through what they went through with the drug epidemic. I would just blame us.
Yeah.
And I would not understand what, I wouldn't really know the truth about what's going on. And I think that ignorance overall is what we have to be fighting the most at this time. Whether it's, people of European descent, people of African descent, most of the people in the country on the planet are just not aware. They don't know what happened. They don't know the history. They don't understand what's going on right now. They don't know what happened in the past. And until people start to understand those things, we can't have last solutions, because you can't solve a problem that you don't even understand. So
And I hope
that's what I
at this moment,
happened.
I hope in this moment that people really understand that at the core of many of these crises that we're dealing with is capitalism. If
Right.
we can't talk about like pandemics such as the one we're in right now. We can talk about the ways in which capitalism actually allows these things to happen. And we can't talk about climate change
Right.
without talking about capitalism. We can't talk about police violence without talking about capitalism, when we understand that the role of the police is to protect the interests of the ruling class. And so,
Right.
this idea about, I hear a lot of people.
Right. Property.
I'm not going to even talk about like this whole thing that DeRay rolled out, because it's just ridiculous to me. But I will say, I don't know if you've heard about this thing, the measures that he's kind of rolling out to decrease police violence by 70% in communities, which sounds as ridiculous as Joe Biden talking about, if you have somebody attacking with a gun, don't shoot them in the heart, just shoot them in the leg. We need to abolish these oppressive systems and replace them with something that
And people don't understand law. Like, that's another thing too, is like most people have not read the Constitution, and most people don't understand that this, from a legal standpoint, that what they're doing is illegal. They have no legal right to shoot anybody. They have no legal right to do any of this stuff. The only right they have to do, to detain someone if they need to detain someone. So when people want to go back and forth about, oh, you should have did this, you should have did that, it's because they don't actually know their rights. They don't actually know what's legal and what they don't understand law. So the conversation will come about something else. And then back to what you're saying about capitalism. Everybody wants to be such, so charged up right now for solutions. But are you really willing to experience or understand the squalor that so many of us live in on a day-to-day basis in this country? Do you want to eradicate that? Do you think you can eradicate police brutality without eradicating the conditions which, make it so that people don't care what happens to us? And how many people that are against police brutality right now, vocally and in the public, how many of them are against gentrification? Because gentrification is causing mass homelessness. They just painted Black Lives Matter on the street in DC, and everyone is thanking the mayor. And I want to know what that mayor is doing to, if our lives matter much, what have you done and what will you do to make sure that people who live there for decades are not pushed out of where they live? And if you care, actually care. That's basically what I'm saying.
Just don't perform. I feel like stuff like that, I appreciate it in some ways because I think it can be empowering for a child to see like the Black Lives Matter Plaza or to see that on the street, but it's performative in that, you can't on one hand do that and then give the police an extra $20 million, and I think it's really about, addressing these policies that continue to enable these institutions to oppress and marginalize. I think about your, can you tell us about just really feeling like you wanted to launch into action, you wanted to do this kind of social entrepreneurship? And let me ask you this, is there like a 501c3 arm of SÜPRMARKT?
Yeah.
So people can actually donate to that.
Right, exactly. So SÜPRMARKT is the entity that provides the groceries, and you can buy groceries from SÜPRMARKT. And SÜPRMARKT is in charge of providing the food. SÜPRSeed is in charge of providing the experiences and the education needed for people to make the lasting change in their lives. Because as most of us know, it's not just about putting some broccoli and some carrots in front of people or making it available. We have to reverse decades of, fast food dependency that has been built into a lot of our communities by, the agricultural complex and various food policies that exist. And so what SÜPRSeed actually does is, we put on South Central's first ever vegan festival last October. More than 1,000 people came out. We had speakers. We had free and discounted food. It was 17 Black and brown vendors. Most of them sold out. It was probably one of the most beautiful moments in my life. And so we do things like that. We do juice cleanses. We help people juice, provide juicers, provide produce, and do community juice cleanses so that people have the support they need to actually change. And then we're also moving to have more educational content, like we put out videos, how to actually store your produce, and recipes are culturally relevant. So that's what the mission of SÜPRSeed is. And like I said, with us raising the funds, we're wanting to establish the first full service organic grocery in South Central. But more than a grocery, it'll be a community center. It'll be a place where you can come yoga. It'll be a place where everything is under offset by nonprofit. So instead of paying $7, for a stick of deodorant, we'll make it. That's kind of the idea and the vision behind the work that we do, and it, providing the workshop, one-on-one support that everyone needs.
Mm-hmm. Who's your crew? Like when you're doing workshops, when you're having activities for the community, like who are you bringing in to help implement a lot of this?
So we have a good extended community. Like we know so many people, and so many people are kind of interested in helping. We have kind of like a core team of just like a few people. Amir, Chris, Serena. There's like a Corinne. There's a immediate crew that we have, and we have like a network that includes Ground Museum and Angela Means from Jackfruit Cafe and all these different people. And our job now is to translate the resources and the connections that we've amassed over the past few years into actual solutions for the community, you know, like, and make sure that the resources actually get to the people that we're actually working to serve. So that's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you like, what kind of I guess approach do you have to ensuring that the work that you're doing is actually meeting the needs of the people? Like, is there mechanisms where you get input from community so that, you know, it's really about meeting those needs and not kind of like we're imagining what's the best thing, but like truly finding out what folks want and then moving from there?
Yeah, so we want to build more infrastructure for that. Right now, the main way that people communicate with us is either by email or through Instagram. But the vision I have is like, once we have our budget in place, because we're really small right now, but once we actually have like a grown up budget, we would like to put out, you know, similar to what happened with the people's. We would like to be able to put out. I don't know if you guys could still hear Bryant. Can you hear me, Bryant? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you know, you were kind of.
So we want to make it so that like, once a year or 2 years, we put out input to the community. Say, hey, what health issues are you experiencing? What do you actually want to happen? What do you need help with as it relates to your health? That's something that we want to do every single year, so that we're not only reaching people that really need the help, but we're understanding how their situation is evolving and what they're actually wanting help with. So that's going to be a part of what our strategy is. Currently, what we do is we do have surveys. So after we do an event, we send a survey out, or after somebody does the juice cleanse, we send a survey out so we can feedback that way, so we can start to track. But that's the kind of talent that I'm wanting to bring on board, like somebody who has experience with nonprofit program management and measurement, so that we can really be as effective as possible. And if any of you guys know somebody, you know, people who are good at that, please let us know.
Mm-hmm. Let's step in our Louise Hay, Catherine Ponder world of metaphysics for a second. If you had to create a vision board and manifest what you believe the community needs to truly be whole, to truly be helpful, tell us what would that vision look like?
It looks like little girls and little boys that grew up like me having an awesome place to work. I can see people just working together happily towards, you know, food sovereignty. I see a work where a team like does yoga every day, like a shared vegan meal. So everybody, you know, I worked in restaurants all up until I found the supermarket. And one of the things that was most depressing is to see how they would trip over food. Like, they'll press you over, you know, you only get this discount with your food, and then go throw the food. I mean, so that's not going to be happening in my building. The people that I work with will be developing leadership capabilities. We're gonna have like take lead if people want to go to Vipassana, or if people want to have different spiritual experiences. I want to have some sort of insurance where people have it built into their you know, monthly allocation, that they can go get acupuncture or they can go get massage, and like that's a part of their wellness care or their insurance. And as far as our operations, I want us to be serving 1,000 people a week by 2021. I want us to launch an incubator that empowers the makers that we already know and the makers that are coming up right now that are vegan food and different brands and things like that. Empower them to scale. There's so many people that are already out here making food on a weekly basis in a pop-up tent. But it's like, okay, how do I get my stuff into stores? Like, how do they get a brick and mortar if they want one? Providing those tools so that we can actually win. We can manufacture all these things in our own neighborhood. We're going to be building the demand for people to be running healthy, and I want us to be also fulfilling the demand. And then beyond, you know, the next couple of years, I want to see supermarkets in every hood. You know, I want to see the Trader Joe's in the hood, basically. And I want to end food deserts. Like, I want it to be like, by the time my children are grown, I want there to not be food deserts anymore. So that's what I see taking place. And the only thing I need is for 2020 to stop messing up my plans. Like, it's hard to like hold vision in mind for the future when you're just like, is there even gonna be a future? What's really happening right now? It's like I'm splitting my energy, but I'm working, like I said, really stay focused on the things that I just mentioned to you.
Yeah. I think about that often, and I also recognize that, we're dealing with a reality, and maybe it looks different, but this is a reality that people around the globe are dealing with.
Right.
Think about people living in Palestine, like they're literally in many ways,
right.
I don't want to call it hell on earth, because I think that kind of like that disrupts like just the way that people are like thriving and living. But it's just like people have been under siege, people have been living under authoritarian rule as we are, and I just feel like this moment.
We thought it would never happen to us. We thought we could let it happen and make it happen everywhere else on the planet, and it would never happen to us. And I swear to God, as soon as that COVID hit, it got real third world real fast. Everybody who thought they were comfortable, secure financially, that changed so quickly.
Yeah.
All it took was 2 weeks at home. You know what I'm saying? And so that's helping to peel back the illusion that we have that we're superior, our dollar is superior, we're invincible, blah, blah, blah. We should know now that that's not true, and we should be working on actually securing ourselves in real ways.
Yeah. And I hope this just generates more compassion among people. I think about people complaining about the stay-in-place order and, being in house for a couple months. And, I mean, no doubt, it's stressful. I mean, like, I want to get out and be in the world. I'm like, there's 2 vacations I'm not going to, but at the same time, I think one thing that I've been really tapped into, because a lot of what I've been trying to amplify is the work with like prison abolitionist groups, like Critical Resistance. And I just think, like, imagine if you were locked in a cell. Like, all the folks who are complaining about being in your home, imagine if you're locked in a cell. And then imagine if you're, like, in solitary confinement. So I just really hope that this helps people kind of reach
out. And imagine if you you're locked in a cell. I think, and I don't even want to get started on prison, but I just want to say that is another big piece of this puzzle that people are not willing to look at. Everybody is very focused on police brutality, but it has taken me into my adulthood, in the past 2 years to really understand that members of my family have been kidnapped by the prison industrial complex. Those are the people that I need in my life to be able to build and to be able to build my community and, have a life and have a future. And I think most of this country doesn't know what it is like to have a whole quarter of your family or a whole tenth of your family be in prison and what that feels like. And as Black people, what we've been taught to do is just look away, but if we were in a village somewhere, back in the day and somebody came and just grabbed people and just took them away, we wouldn't allow it. And we have to be willing to let people out of jail. We have to want that. We have to be ready for that. We have to push for that because it's wrong. It's very wrong, and our family members back.
Can you tell me, and I mean, I think about this all the time because that unhoused population in the Bay Area, I mean, it's exploded over the past decade. I think with this COVID-19, it's exacerbated the problem. What's the vibes and situation with the unhoused population down in LA now? Like, do you see a shift? Have you seen a shift since all this started? Like, do you feel like it's just pretty the same?
I haven't been outside enough to see a shift. I've seen people put on the news that there was going to be a shift and that they were going to be actually housing people. All of a sudden, as you may know, we passed a resolution. Hundreds of millions of dollars were allocated to build housing for the homeless. And I think like 4 units of housing have been built so far. So they're fucking the money off, excuse my language. And I think that people in power never having experienced homelessness is the root of that issue. Because if you spent 2 weeks on the streets and still trying to work your job and things like that, if you have ever experienced that, you would not want anybody to experience that. You wouldn't have all the snarky things to say about why don't they just pull themselves up. When you haven't slept because you are living outside, you can't sleep properly, there's nothing anybody can say about how, that you need to just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. When you can't get a shower when you need one, that's another thing is why do we have to have conversations with ourselves about why do we allow this? Why have we gotten so desensitized that we can just walk over somebody that's just laying in the street?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just be okay with it. And this is us turning the lens on ourselves and and us asking ourselves what we're going to do. And I think the interesting thing about the situation is that it happened at a time when people had time. People had been at home for some time. They had time to reflect. They weren't going to work all the time. And I think that increased people's outrage, in addition to just the pent-up energy that everybody has. People have the time to be human now, because that's all, we've been able to do for the past. I saw that the police shot somebody in the head with a rubber bullet that was homeless and in a wheelchair, recently. So that's one thing I was worried about with this curfew thing, is just like, what about the people who don't have anywhere to live?
Yeah.
And so I really want there to be a really drastic shift in leadership in my city specifically, because even when it comes down to council people and things like that, they all voted to approve this budget that just got passed.
Yeah.
And then they want to come out and want to say, oh, we're going to take $100 million away from the police department, up to $100 million out of billions of dollars, or however much money has been allocated to them. And that's not enough. Yeah. And people need to tell them that's not enough.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap up, I'd love it if you could do two things. There are a lot of people around the country who are viewing this now and who will be viewing it. We have it on Facebook. We've gotten thousands of views once this is actually over. And so if you could, one, give people advice about ways that they can contribute in their local communities when it comes to food systems, when it comes to addressing food apartheid, some kind of concrete things that people might be able, because I think, when you deal with such a systemic problem, especially when it doesn't impact you personally, a lot of people just don't even know where to enter. And so I'm wondering if you have like one or two things that you can, kind of pass on for folks to think about doing to improve the health of their local communities. And finally, kind of, if you could tell us what we might be able to do to help your organization and your movement in Los Angeles specifically, how we might be able to, personally support or amplify it so that others can support. So, yeah.
So I'm going to recommend anybody that says they want to help, I'm going to recommend 3 films. And I'm going to ask everybody to please watch these 3 films. The first film is Bastards of the Party. If anybody needs a link, they can DM me and I will send it to you. But Bastards of the Party is very pivotal because it touches on everything from how there came to be Klansmen in the police department, to how the crack epidemic happened, to what happened to the Black Panther Party and COINTELPRO and Bunchy Carter and all those people. And, up until the 92 riots and the gang truce and, cops doing drive-bys out of gang members' cars so that the gang truce would end. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important video for people to watch so that they can be informed. Then I want everybody to watch. It's a hard call between Food Inc. and Forks Over Knives, so I'm just going to go with Food Inc. I want everybody to watch Food Inc. so you can understand the food system. And so if you are in a position where you're able to eat healthy, I want you to imagine what it would be like for you to not be in a position to do so and watch that film. And then the other thing I want everybody to watch is Craigslist Joe, because I think that at this time, community building and compassion are there's no way we can get around bringing those back into our world and how we've become separate from each other. And compassion is important because it was the compassion that was inside of me that led me to start this project. If I hadn't built up compassion inside of myself, I wouldn't have the courage to give food to a random person. I wouldn't have what it takes to see a problem in the world and do something to solve it, right? So a lot of us see a lot of problems in the world, but we're desensitized, or, we're just not thinking it through. We're not feeling it through. And so we need to build that muscles so that when we see something wrong, we actually do something. So I recommend Craigslist Joe. So those are the 3 things that I recommend, for people to watch. Information is first. After you watch those things, hit me up and let me know you watched it, and then share it with 3 more people. Have a watch party. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people of European descent have been hitting us up. How can we help? What can I do? And, it's about keeping this same energy down the line, and you know, showing these films and things like that to your family, and having watch parties and focusing on this, and not just going back to the bar once the bar opens back up. And then as far as what people can do to help us, we need funds and we need skilled staff. Those are the two things that we need. So we need help, fundraising, connecting, writing grants, getting the rest of the funds we need to be able to carry out our work. We've made a lot happen with very little funds. You know, since we started, when we started $100 and no table, and we're here now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just through dedication, and we're only going to amplify any funds that are given to us. So we really appreciate any and all donations. You can donate at supermarket.la/donate, and the donations are tax deductible. But then we also need, you know, skilled support. Like I need, you know, admin support, just administrative help. There's just so many tasks, especially when it comes time to open up this actual location. There's so much help we're going to need, just actually getting that off the ground, from interior design to marketing to, you know, actually building out systems and training for employees and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much we need help with. So just staying in touch with us, continuing to ask us what we need help with, and jumping in if you have those backgrounds in like systems management, or if you've run an organization before, if you're willing to help us create the systems that we need to be able to govern ourselves and rule ourselves, that's very valuable to us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Olympia. Everyone, if you're just joining or wasn't here before, this is Olympia Auset, who is the founder of SÜPRMARKT in Los Angeles. We really appreciate you. We honor you for the work that you're doing, and you know, we just want to see you continue to thrive and succeed. So when things do normalize, whatever point that happens, we would love to have you at MoAD so we can see you in person and do some type of, you know, something. I don't know what it is, but we want to bring you up so you can do something at the museum. So.
Okay, I appreciate you, Brian, and stay safe. And I really send the best wishes out to everyone, and I send a lot of love out to everyone. And thank you for having me. And just we've made it through a lot, so we're gonna make it through this. We just got to stay strong and you know, stay alert and stay on your toes, everybody, because we're focused on this right now, but who knows what's next, and we really need to be looking down the pipeline at what's possible. So I look forward to building a